Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. We've got Julio here with us from Ovation. He's the guy I've been dealing with for the last couple months, getting this set up for you guys. About a month ago, had a meeting with him online, and he was going through a bunch of stuff, kind of things that he looks at, and kind of how to read our site a little bit. And I was like, wow, that's really good information. I think that's stuff that'd be useful to our managers to kind of take it to the next level past the just responding to guests. So I asked him if he could do one of these sessions with us, and he was kind enough to hop on with us today. So he'll be kind of driving the bus here. I think he said that he was gonna open it up maybe at the beginning for questions. If anyone has any things that they want help with or questions about the system, he was gonna open that up. So feel free to come off mute and ask him a question or type in the chat or whatever. And then obviously if you unmute, make sure you mute again. I know there's a lot of background noise sometimes in the restaurant, so it's all yours, Julia.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Again, Julio with Ovation. I'm just a salesperson here, so I've kind of been dealing with Mike since the very beginning of his experience with us, and um, I've been just kind of a little background about myself. I've been at Ovation for 2 years. I've been selling restaurant technology for the last 10 years, but I've been in the restaurant industry to some capacity for the last 22, 23 years. Worked at full service restaurant, worked at a single location restaurant, multi-unit restaurant. So I've kind of done everything in the restaurant space that you could imagine. So I look at Ovation almost from an operational lens, not like selling a software as a service lens. But as Mike said, I wanted to start this off with, does anybody have any questions? Happy to answer anything before I get into kind of, really the way I would use Ovation if I was in your guys' shoes. Nothing? Awesome. All right. Well, let me start sharing my screen here. Please feel free to interrupt, ask away, or even type in the chat. So can I just get either a thumbs up or a yes, or if you guys can see my screen?
You're good, Julia.
Looks good.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. So a couple things, when I just like, or actually, I guess I have a question that I want to ask everybody that's on the call. How many of you guys have actually logged into the desktop version of Ovation? You can just put it in the chat, yes or no.
I would actually guess almost all of them. Julia, I don't think a lot of them are
Okay.
using the phone app. There might be a
Oh,
couple,
okay.
but we kind of teach them through the
Perfect.
desktop.
Awesome. All right. You'd be surprised at how many people say that they've never logged in, even though they have. They've been on for a while. All right. Awesome. So, in reference to what I like to look at, obviously, some of your guys' views are either, location specific, but if you guys have access to all the locations, I always look at it from, a top level view. And while this is really great, right, how many surveys have been taken, what the average satisfaction score is, and the response time, all that information is awesome. But what I like to look at is this survey score, right? This is actually picture perfect. So 80% of the guests are having a 5-star experience. And then the rest is comprised of 20% broken down into four, three, twos, and ones. Um, a lot of what I like to see is this, right? The fours, because that's where you're going to get a really decent um, amount of feedback from people who want to give you feedback so you can operate better, and then use that information to operate or to coach your team to operate more efficiently with guests, right? So what does that mean for me? Like, what are these people saying, and how can I operate better? And really, it just comes down to, like, when I look at insights, obviously we could continue to keep digging deeper and trying to find out more granular information. But if I'm looking at this as like an area manager or just a general manager of the store, I want to look at the top issues, right? Attentiveness, preparation, speed. But what does this mean for me? Ultimately, it's Attentiveness. Okay, well, what days do I have to focus on? I have to focus on Saturday and Sunday, right? Those are the biggest days. But within that time frame, it's like right in the afternoon. So maybe right before our dinner service, those are the times that we can operate more efficiently, just a little bit better. So who's working those days? What can I do to kind of eliminate that or even get ahead of those issues so that they're not trending issues in the future, right? Um, and then ultimately really kind of looking through it, using all this information because the data is only as good as I can use it, right? So if I'm looking at this, I want to really look at the one that's got the higher number and the darker the color. Um, but if you're only looking at your particular location, right? So like let's just take Bell Vernon, for example. I want to take a look at the incidents that are coming in and what people are saying. So prep, taste, portion, right? And then use this to say, okay, on the week of the August 24th to the 30th, we were having uh, eight negative mentions, and what can we do to kind of get ahead of that, right? How can we flatline this, if you will? And it just comes down to reading this and then understanding that it's not just coming from Ovation, but it's coming from people that aren't even engaging with Ovation. It's coming from the public review data, right? Um, so ultimately, that's how I would look at the insights piece or the reporting piece if I'm going through in order to fix operationally what I could do better. Now, let's take it just a step back and look at the top issues, not just per store, not just by day, but attentiveness. So, out of curiosity, are you guys coaching to attentiveness at the table, right? How can I use this to better my guest experience? So people are coming in here saying the server brings the drinks and we had to flag her down for a second drink for my son. You might not think that this is a big deal, but sometimes people are expecting a different level of service. So like if attention to the table is coming up repeatedly, then those are the things I want to coach to. And I essentially want to coach them to St. Mary's and Huntingdon, if that makes sense. Um, any questions on kind of like where I'm going with this? Or does anybody currently do this? No. Okay. So the second thing I look at if I'm just, going outside of like the insights piece, the reporting piece, and the feedback piece is the leaderboard, right? How do I compare to the other locations that are in our team, right? Um, I'm not sure how you guys break it down, Mike, if it's like per region or per store or per area manager, but this is essentially something that you guys could use to really understand what how your store is performing based off of Ovation data, if this makes sense.
Oh, Leah,
Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
I know there was a message in
Oh,
chat. Tammy asked if she could show her again where you get into the insights.
yeah, absolutely. So you'd come over here and you'd come into if you ever wanted to keep this bar open, you just hit this little circle up here and it keeps it open. So you just come down as insights here.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And then again, some of the locations, Mike, if I don't exactly have like the way that you guys are set up, but some of them you might only be able to see your particular location.
Yeah, I believe most of the managers can only see their location.
Yeah. So, essentially if you're only looking at your location, so like if I'm just looking at Bell Vernon, if I'm just looking at Greensburg, I want to take a look at, what people are saying about their food, their prep, the temperature of the food. This word cloud just gives you a good idea of what are the most mentions, right? So the more times it's mentioned, the bigger the word is. Okay. Let's go back to the leaderboard. So, you know, I'm not sure how often you guys are looking at these things, right? From, Mike down, but essentially this is just giving you a really good indication of like what your response time is in comparison to other stores, right? What your response rate is. So like obviously you're not going to be able to respond to every single um, survey, right? And sometimes obviously things get missed. But if you have a 90%, you want to get to 100%, this is where you'd be able to see it, right? So um, like not trying to call anybody out here, but Richland has 10 surveys taken, right? It's a little hard to look at it when you look at your response rate only being 50%, right? There's only been 10 messages. Now, obviously, there could be a plethora of reasons for that. Maybe the adoption isn't as high there. But essentially, that's something that I would look at and say, okay, I'm the GM of this store. Like, I want to be at 100%, right? Even if it's 10 messages or 1,000 messages. Um, and then also, if I'm somebody who doesn't necessarily, I respond to 100%, but it takes me 24 hours, you'd be able to see that here under response time, right? So just something to think about the way that I would think about it as an operator or as a GM of the store. These are some of the things that, even though they might seem small or might seem insignificant, do make a big difference, right? So one of the things that Mike and I were talking about when it comes to guest recovery is our data shows that if you respond to somebody within 24 hours, the likeliness of them coming back goes up about 3 to 4x, right? Now, if anything more than that 24 hours, they've kind of forgotten about it and like now don't care. So just something to think about. Any questions on that or any ideas on that? No. Um, And then, I mean, really, that's that is like the chunk of like what we discussed as far as, kind of seeing holistically like where you compare or where you rank on your store, some of the things that we look at from a GM standpoint. Um, Obviously, the more surveys you're going to get, the better you guys are, or the more feedback you're going to get, and the better you guys can operate and get information from your guests. So, like, if I was to look at that insights piece and just look at it at attentiveness, I don't look at it as, oh, I need to check in on my tables more. I look at it as, okay, they're saying that they want more attention, so that just ultimately means that maybe I can have more opportunities to upsell them, right? Somebody wants another drink, maybe somebody wants to order something else, or maybe it's just another way to flip your table faster, right? So just something to think about that while this information is great, don't take it at face value is really the way like what I'm getting to.
Hey Julio,
Yep.
can you get into the saving customers and like how that's
Yeah.
defined and where you would see that at?
Yeah, absolutely. So w the way that we count a customer saved, right? This is your landing page. Whenever you log into the dashboard, it comes to this page, right? So customer saved in this case is 10. But the way that we define a customer saved is somebody comes in, they have a 4, 3, 2, or 1 star experience. So like our smiley face, our mild face, sad face, and then angry face. Um, has one of those experiences, leaves, interacts with Ovation, and then you incentivize them to come back. Now, if you have ever seen Ovation like actually come in real time, there isn't always cinnamon bread available. I should not have to ask for it nearly every time I come. So hypothetically, if I respond to this Kimberly Mitchell guest, I can respond in this way and then add an incentive, which is here's $5 off 25. If I send this to her and then Kimberly comes back in and redeems that $5 off for 25, that counts as a customer saved. And then that would count this ticker to go up to 11, right? So the more incentives that you are sending out there, the more discount codes that you're sending out, the more things that someone can redeem, the likeliness of them coming back goes up significantly. But once they actually come back, we want to know if they actually came back, right? So that's essentially how we're tagging that customer so that whenever they do come back, we can count them and say, okay, well, Julio had a bad experience. He came back, used that redemption code, and now that's a customer saved. Okay. I'll show you like a real example I just did not even an hour ago. So just bear with me one moment. So when I send out that text message, I send out a redemption code, here's $5 off your next order, here's $10 off your next $45 order, whatever it might be. But when I redeem that, it comes up like this, that I actually redeemed that discount code. So now you're not guessing whether or not Julio came back. You know because it actually lives within his profile. Okay. Um, Anything else on that, Mike?
So that's strictly off of basically the offers. It has nothing to do with they came back, 2 weeks later, a month later, and gave you a 5-star review. That doesn't count as a saved customer.
Great question. It does. So
Okay.
not that they left a review, but they actually came back and ordered again. So if hypothetically I come into the store, I have a 3-star experience, I give you feedback and I leave, and then a month later, 2 months later, I order online, right? Um, and basically you had an interaction with me. You didn't, not that you had to give me an incentive, but let's just say that I give you a 3-star review. I say that the food temperature was bad, and you responded to me saying, "I'm sorry about the food temperature. We hope that you come back again." If I do in fact come back again and I order online, it's going to count as a customer save because you interacted with me.
Okay. And if it's not an order online, then it would have to be based on them interacting with you.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Correct. So you do want to, you know, in my opinion, you do want to send the message. So hypothetically, to about 330 customers, you do want to incentivize them to come back to some capacity, right? Whether it's $5 off or $10 off or a percentage off. Um, and we would like to see this number continuously increase.
This is Tammy. I do have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
So I guess I'm trying to understand this. If they use the coupon, is it like scanned from their phone and that reads it, or is it only if they go back and like how do you know?
Great
I'm trying,
question.
I'm trying to
Yep.
understand how this is getting to this. I think it's
Yep.
great. I know it's technology, but not quite sure I totally understand yet.
100%. So when I send you a discount code, actually, let's do this here real quick. I'm going to act as if I'm Tammy. And apologies for the speed of my computer right now. So let's just say I have a 3-star experience, right, which is that middle icon. Um, Steak was overcooked. Restaurant was freezing cold. And I just sent to management. And Tammy, what's your cell number? Or you don't have to give it. You can just let's see, I can do it here. So I send this off, and then essentially I get a text message with that redemption code. 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can mirror this. I'm gonna see if I can show this on my screen. Let's see that there. Hold on one second. Oh, I'm sorry. Tammy, I'll send you what it looks like. I can't do it because I don't have messages on my like iMessage on my computer. Um, but basically when someone clicks on this particular redemption, it gives them an option of redeeming in store or online, and uh that redemption is just a sequence of it's a code basically. It says 5 off or $5 off. And when you come into the store, if you're coming into the store, you want to show that to your server, and then they would just use that redemption code to then input that into your POS, into Spot On.
Yeah, and Tammy, the other big thing about that is whenever the customer shows it to you, there is confetti falling in the background. So um, you can tell it's a valid code. It hasn't been used before if there's confetti falling. If there's no confetti falling, nothing, that means they've just taken a screenshot of it and they're trying to reuse it again. So we wouldn't allow that. But yeah, a valid code would say, hey, $5 off, and you'd see confetti kind of like was on the screen there a little
Correct.
bit ago.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have a question though, Michael. So there's a code, but if the server just says that it was on the phone, like they got a 10 off 40, like which they do get coupons and sometimes it's shown on the phone. I'm guessing that's not going to necessarily show back as a customer saved unless that particular number is punched into the machine. And I'm not sure our servers would be doing that.
No, it would show as a customer saved because this doesn't know, the Ovation doesn't know anything about the POS. So as soon as the customer clicks that button to say, "Hey, I want to redeem this code," it
Okay,
immediately counts as a customer saved.
so whether they use the
Okay,
okay.
thank you. That makes sense
Good
now.
way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
got- We were right with Tammy on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just the middleman, like we're just a messenger on the promo code. Michael has imported the promo code into Ovation through Spot On, basically. But I'll send out what that looks like. And also another thing on top of the confetti, there is a timer. So every discount code is 15 minutes. So if the timer itself isn't timing down from 15 minutes and it's not actively going down, then it's not a valid code. So you'll be able to see that. All right. And that's customer saved. Anything else that you want me to touch on, Mike?
Uh, that's all I had for that popped into my head at that moment. I'm sure I'll think of 20 others.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not sure exactly the process of how you guys are actually showing the survey or really going through it. Tiffany, is there a way to see when the customer was actually at the store? Um, Great question. Sometimes to address a comment, we need to know more detailed information to address a comment. So the only the only information that we get is if somebody orders online, then that is going to trigger a text message to go out, and we will get the order number, the dollar value of that order, and the items in that order. If it's someone who comes into the store and they just scan the QR code, we don't get any information because we're not integrated to Spot On like that. Um, but the only thing that I would say is if you do have instances where you need to have, specific information, I would then start, having the dialogue like, okay, do you know who your server was? Do you have a picture of your receipt? Send us a picture of your receipt because you can, in fact, send pictures through text message into Ovation.
I think that's helpful information because there are times when the managers, you want to have a training situation where you want to train the server or the cook, but if they don't know
For sure.
who, it's been more difficult. I have one more quick question.
Yep.
Is there a way that if I just want to look at certain locations in a way to filter out the rest of them?
So you come up here
Okay.
and you'll only have access to the ones that you're assigned to. So if I wanted to take a look at Altoona, Annville, Bedford, I would then just click on them and I would click out of it. And then that would come up with how many surveys they're taking. And then you could then do that as well through, if you go to Insights, come in here, and you would do the exact same thing.
Perfect. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Um, and then also, Mike, before I forget, the daily summary and weekly report email is down right now. I guess I was late to the party on how many people have already been submitting requests, so that will be resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Um,
I
and
saw
then
someone did put in a comment about training our servers on looking for a countdown and a confetti, and I think absolutely all of our servers need to be aware of that.
agreed. So one of the questions I have as well is like, are you have there been or has there been a training on making your guests aware that Ovation exists? Not like saying, hey, this is Ovation, like take it, but an example of this would be I'm a server and at the end of the dining experience, when I'm leaving the check, I say, hey, thanks so much for coming in. By the way, there's a QR code that's on the bottom of the receipt. We'd love for some feedback, whether good or bad. It really helps us. We hope that you guys come in again. Um, is there any kind of attention being shown to the QR code or even to the survey?
Julio, I was going to show you, we actually have on every one of our tables a QR code that they can win a free meal for a year. So they're definitely,
Incredible.
it's on every single table and at each restaurant.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, all right. That's great. Thank you. Um, I mean, that's really it. I mean, there's not a lot of complication to, we don't want to make anything complicated for anybody, whether it be the guests or even for you guys. But we do want to give you as much information that you guys can use to operate more efficiently and just obviously deliver a better guest experience. Um, so I'm open to any questions if anybody has anything. I'm here, not just for this call, but even for via email or for any other call if you guys need me. But I'm happy to answer anything at the moment.
Julio, the numbers that you saw for us, is that as far as 5-star versus 4-3-2-1, is that pretty standard? Is that
Yeah,
good?
so two things that I've noticed here, like this is actually a picture perfect, like 80% 5-star and then 20% 4 or less is actually incredibly healthy. Um I'm just shocked in a good way that you guys have almost 1,800 surveys taken in 30 days just with the QR codes or going to the website. I mean, that is awesome in my opinion. Um, Personally, I'd like to see this customer save number go up just by continuously incentivizing guests to come back. And that's only the only reason I'm saying that is because I like to personally see at least a 10% or maybe more number based off of the 4 stars. So like if I'm just judging it based off of this number, I want to see at least 23 to 30 customers saved. But that's not to say that they're not coming back. It's just I just like to see that.
Do you have any other best practices as far as I mean, I know you talked for about under 24 hours response time. Anything else that you could recommend or?
Honestly, so under 24 hours for sure is a great response time. Now, you also have to take in mind, like this is over the all of the locations. So like, some of the numbers are skewed. If I'm looking at it from the leaderboard, some of your locations are I think of the fastest one I saw was 33 minutes. Like that's incredible, right? Um, but if I'm looking at it and comparing it to other brands that, if I look at their overall dashboard and then obviously their public facing, their digital storefronts, you know, having this response time be an average of under 8 hours makes a big difference. If you look at it from a company standpoint. Now, obviously, we want to respond to 100% of them. Is it impossible? No. Is it always going to happen? No. But obviously, best practices are to respond to everybody, whether good or bad. And then the last thing I'll say about responding, so this is like the next level of kind of requesting something from your guest, is if you're looking at these 5-star reviews, right? I would go into customers because sometimes they don't leave you a review. They just said they had a really good experience, right? So Amy, I'd come in here and she just had a great experience. Or Ami, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but they had a great experience. And I would come in here and I would say positive feedback. And this is just proactively reaching out to them saying, hey, thank you so much. Glad you had a good experience. Would you consider taking 30 seconds to leave us a positive review? Now, when you send this to that guest, they're going to get a text message, right? Now, whether or not they actually leave a review on Google is up to them, but it increases your chances of increasing your score simply by asking. Now, some of these people have already clicked out to leave a review, right? So Robert, he clicked out to leave a review. Now, whether he left that review or not, I'm not sure. I have to manually check it, right? But you can come in here and you can say, uh, did not leave a review and go down this list and proactively just ask them. And that's all you have to do is just click on that chat box and ask them to leave a review. And you can go down through all the 5 stars. And just ask them to leave a review. Now, that's going to increase your score. It's going to drive up your SEO and your SEM. And essentially, um, that's just going to attract new customers.
Mike,
Can we send them?
Michael, is that already set up automatically? Is our stores,
What's
the
what's
stores aren't
that?
seeing the stores aren't seeing the 5-star, right? So that's all.
You went to customers for that, correct, Julia?
Yep, you go to customers
They don't
and
get a
then
notification on a 5-star, but they
you
can
don't.
go to
Correct.
customers and look at it this way.
Correct. There was
Tiffany,
a,
to answer your question, is there a way to see when the customer is actually, oh wait, sorry, wrong one. There was another one I saw I want to answer.
yeah, can we send a win back on a Google review? Ours says business profile needed.
Yeah,
And
that's something that I got to talk to Ian about. That our Google is completely outside of here, and I forget who had the credentials for how we can get in and respond to those in there. We cannot send the win back through Ovation, but if I can get everyone's credentials, we could respond to them through Google.
yeah,
I have a question.
go ahead.
I have guests that leave 5-star reviews, but they also want to leave specific feedback and it doesn't let them without going to do a Google review. Is there a way we can add that function to this, or do I have to invite them to do it?
So, oh, that's such a great question. And it's obviously it's not the first time I've heard that. We are working on a product in the future. Hasn't been released yet, but we are working on it where even the 5 stars can leave feedback. Um, but for right now, you have to proactively ask them. So you would have to come into here and the 5-star reviews would then have to come in and, you'd have to have a dialogue with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question though, because you're not the first person to ask, and it is, and it's not that we don't want the feedback from them, but we want to give them the path of least resistance to leave a 5-star Google review or Yelp review or whatever platform the restaurant brand wants, because that's essentially a byproduct of the process. Um, cool. Anything else? Anything else that I can go over, or any other questions that have come up?
It's your
Awesome.
chance, guys.
Yeah, no, feel free to ask away. There's no, it sounds cliche, but there are no dumb questions. Like, I obviously still have a ton of questions myself. Um, but I'm here to help. So if you guys ever have any questions, my email is julio@ovationup.com. Happy to continue the conversation and continue working with you guys. Yes, there is. So Allie's iPhone. Yeah, there is a mobile app in the App Store. It looks exactly like this little Ovation icon here. When you log in with your cell phone number, and then you'll be able to respond to winbacks just like you would a text message. So when a winback, or when a 4, 3, 2, or 1 comes in, it comes in to your phone instead of the desktop, and you can respond with all the same functionality that you respond to within Ovation desktop. So you can have your templates, you can have the AI response, you can even send the discount codes.
I have a question. What if
Yep,
you have a regular customer that's always trying to get a discount off their everything, and constantly or a disgruntled employee? We had one of them the other day.
for
Um,
sure.
and all of the managers don't know, everybody that used to work here didn't know it was a disgruntled employee, but still
Yeah.
we acted as if it was just a legitimate complaint.
Yep.
If we don't respond to it, it's negative for us. And if we do, we're
Yep.
kind of feeding their hunger.
Yeah, for sure. Great question. So I guess two things here on that. On the person in Ovation here? Like, is that person that's complaining, are they going
Yeah.
through Ovation?
Yes, they went through Ovation.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
So within
No,
here,
no.
you would just come into internal note, and I can just, contact Michael and say, "Hey, Mike, please don't offer any more discounts to Caitlin." Right? And essentially, if I hit add, that then pings Michael. That then pings Michael. Um, Sorry, my daughter just texted me. Apologies. That would then message Michael and say, "Hey, you have this notification," and basically, it's just like an internal note. It's a almost like a CRM for that customer. So that this way, if anybody like sees it, they can say, "Okay, well, I now I know that they're a disgruntled ex-employee." You can put whatever you want in here, and it wouldn't live in the text thread.
Okay, thank you. So that reply goes right under where you go to your win back and you just put Michael's name in and it'll go to him.
You have to hit this little pencil and then tag Michael. But yes,
Okay, okay.
yep.
Yeah,
Or
the thing
Michael.
you want to look for there is the yellow. Yellow
Right.
means it's internal. If it's not yellow, that means the customer is going to see it. So be very careful.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I see it.
Yep. Um, but yeah, so that's really the only way that you can kind of eliminate uh that person. Or, and this is not necessarily the best practice, because you wouldn't know this if you did this, but you can come into their profile and you can hit this little 3 stars up here, and you can block that customer, but it's only blocking them from Ovation. It's not blocking them for obviously going into the restaurant or anything.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is, I mean, I don't know if you see anybody in there now, but if like you had asked the question about if you have somebody who's constantly looking for something, this tracks the entire history of interactions with them. So if somebody had filled out, 20 responses and is always looking for
Mhm.
something, you would see all 20 interactions between us and them when
Yeah.
you go into this.
Yeah, let's see if I can find anyone who's had multiple.
Might be tough.
Yeah, it might be tough. You guys had it. It would be different if you guys had a ton of like online orders, but um, yeah, yeah, it would be tough. But yeah,
And
go ahead.
anybody else have any questions? All right, well, Julia, thank you
Awesome.
very much for your time. I definitely appreciate it. He gave you his email address there, Julio at ovationup.com. If you ever have any questions, reach out to him, reach out to me. He's been very, very helpful throughout this entire process. So, all right, everyone, get
Yeah.
back to your Tuesdays and hope everyone has a really good rest of their week.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Julia. Great
All
job.
right, take care.